everyone, good day. So once again, this is your teacher friend Liz, and today I will be discussing the second topic for our Mathematics 10 Quarter 4. I know that learning at home is kind of challenging and difficult, but it's definitely achievable. And please take down notes and as well as get a piece of paper, a pen, and of course a calculator. You will be needing that one, and let's learn better at home at your own pace. Alright, so are you ready to learn? You will be learning something new today, and that will be illustrating the measures of position of group data, quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. So brought to you by yours truly, your teacher, Melissa Ong Santañez. But just call me, please. Just call me Teacher Liz or Mom Liz for short. Alright, are you guys excited to learn? Now, I would like to give you a warm welcome to our class. Welcome, my awesome students. I know that we can work together, so let's work together and do our best to learn as much as we can, support each other, respect each other through all these challenges. I know we can do this, and let's do it right now. Alright, but before we start, I know that you have some questions in mind. You might be asking yourself, anong matun-an ko subong? Anong bago? Today we will be discussing the introduction for the measures of position of group data. But I would like to recall some real-life experiences or real-life situations wherein you might not be aware that these measures of position already exist. And what are those scenarios? And I know that you have some questions in mind. Probably you might be asking yourself what to know, what I need to know, what's new. So let's start with this one. Have you ever thought of comparing your grades with the rest of your classmates? Like you used to compare your academic performance with the rest of your classmates or your batch, right? We normally do that, or even you as a students. But have you also asked yourself in some national examination why one examinee scores higher or has a higher rank compared with the rest of the other examinees? And also, have you ever heard that there are some states, colleges, and universities that offers great privilege like great scholarship? For example, in Boston, if in case you want to go to Harvard or some Ivy League school, just kidding. But we also have great scholarships being offered, and sometimes they are being offered to those upper class, upper 5%, 10%, or sometimes even 25%. But what does this mean to you? What does it mean when you belong to the upper class, to the upper 5%, 10%, or 25%? You will learn that as we go along. Alright, and have you also recall, or do you still remember your previous lessons about the measures of central tendency during your grade 7 and grade 8 math classes? I know that you can still remember that one as soon as you encounter another lesson that is somehow related to that one, which would be our topic for today. Do you know that the very basic principle or reason behind teaching the measures of central tendency during grade 7 and grade 8 is to more knowledge and deeper understanding of the characteristics of a data in a given set. And another method of interpreting or analyzing a data set is by simply arranging the observations from either ascending order or descending order. And this order set is being divided into two equal parts by simply applying the concept of the median. So we will learn that one. We will need to master the concept of median again, because that's one of the basic skill that needs to be established first in order for you to learn faster about the measures of position. And however, to have more knowledge of the data set, we may divide it into more parts, more than two more parts of equal sizes. And the measures of central tendency which are used for dividing the data into several equal parts are what we call partition value. Alright, so we will be recalling our previous lessons, by the way, for illustrating the measures of possession of ungrouped data, quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. And I have prepared here just a beautiful introduction for those previous lessons, like an overview of the central tendency or the measures of possession, overview of the illustrating measures of position of ungrouped data, so you can easily recall it if there are visuals, and it's the best way to learn, right? If you can see some video or graphics related to the previous lesson. But before we get into that one, I would like to establish first what is our learning objective. Well, objective. At the end of this lesson, I would like you, being my learner, to be able to illustrate the measures of position of group data, quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. While my content standards is to demonstrate understanding of the key concepts of measures of position. And we have our performance standards is the learner is able to conduct systematically a mini research by applying the different statistical methods. And I have here a review guide. I hope that you will find this as helpful. On this part of the short video clip, it will illustrate the measures of position as a review, so you can further imagine and think how does it look like, literally what is a measure of position in statistical data. Alright, so before we can proceed to illustrating the measures of position of group data, so please watch this.
Welcome to another episode of Quick Math Tutorials. Today, we are going to learn about illustrating measures of position. When we say measures of position, one example is, suppose there are 10 students form a line in ascending order from left to right. If you are the fourth tallest student, so this is you, therefore, there are 6 students are shorter than you. It also means that 60% of the students are shorter than you. What if you are the 8th tallest student? How many percent of the students are shorter than you? Yes, there are 20% of the students who are shorter than you. Before we will solve for the measures of position, in this session, we will know what are the measures of position. We will discuss data analysis by dividing it into 4, 10, and 100 equal parts, or what we call the quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. First, let's have the quartiles. Quartiles are the score points which divide a distribution into 4 equal parts. Suppose these are the score points. If you want to divide this distribution into 4 equal parts, so we will divide it by 3. So we have 1, 2, 3, and that gave us 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. This one is what we called the lower quartile, or in symbol we have Q sub 1. And this is what we call the median or the middle, or in symbol we have Q sub 2. And lastly, we have the upper quartile, or in symbol we have Q sub 3. This also means that 25% of the data has a value less than or equal to Q sub 1. 50% of the data has a value less than or equal to Q sub 2. 75% of the data has a value of less than or equal to Q sub 3. So remember, if we are talking with quartiles, just remember that Q sub 1 we have 25%, Q sub 2 we have 50%, and Q sub 3 we have 75%. Next is deciles. Deciles are the 9 score points which divide a distribution into 10 equal parts. Now, if we want to divide this distribution into 10 equal parts, so we will divide this one by 9. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that gave us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 equal parts. This one is what we call D sub 1 or the first decile, D sub 2 second decile, third decile, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth decile or the D sub 9. This also means that 10% of the data has a value of less than or equal to D sub 1. 20% of the data has a value of less than or equal to D sub 2. You have 30%, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90% of the data has a value of less than or equal to D sub 9. So remember, if we are talking with decile, so we have D sub 1 up to D sub 9. And its corresponding percentage we have by 10. We have 10, 20, 30 up to 90%. Last, we have the percentile. Percentile are the 99 score points which divide a distribution into 100 equal parts. We have 1% of the data has a value of less than or equal to P sub 1. 2% of the data has a value less than or equal to P sub 2. 3% of the data has a value less than or equal to P sub 3. Up to 99% of the data has a value of less than or equal to P sub 99. So remember, if we are talking with percentile, we have P sub 1, P sub 2, P sub 3 up to P sub 99. And its corresponding percentage are 1%, 2%, 3% up to 99%. Now we have the first quartile is just equal to the 25th percentile. It's because Q sub 1 is 25% and P sub 25 is also 25%. Next, we have Q sub 3 is just equal to P sub 75. So we have 75%, also 75%. And we have the 7th decile is just equal to the 70th percentile. This is 70%, also 70%. D sub 3 is just equal to P sub 30. This is 30% and also 30%. Lastly, we have the median is just equal to the 5th decile is just equal to P sub 50. So this is 50%, 50%, and also 50%. To sum it up, we have the quartile. So we have Q sub 1, Q sub 2, Q sub 3, or 25%, 50%, and 75%. For the decile, we have D sub 1, D sub 2, up to D sub 9. So we have 10%, 20%, up to 90%. We also have the percentile, the P sub 1, P sub 2, P sub 3, up to P sub 99, or 1%, 2%, 3%, up to 99%.
Alright, did you like the video that I presented to you for the review of the measures of position for the group data? I hope you do, because that will help you a lot to better understand this topic for the measures of position of group data this time. But before that, we'll have a review of the measures of position for the ungrouped data, same as what you have seen on the video, by simply doing this activity. Alright? Because you won't be able to connect your previous knowledge if you don't use or recall the previous one. So what's new? So let's perform this activity. Number 1, entitled, Do you have a sharp memory? Of course you do. So by answering the following questions, you will be able to connect your week 1's topic, week 1's knowledge that you have gained, to the current one. So in that way, you can comprehend everything as a whole. Alright, I will give you 2 minutes to answer this one. This is just quick and easy. Do you have a sharp memory? The following are the scores of 10 students in their 40-item quiz. So I have here 34, 23, 15, 27, 36, 21, 20, 13, 33, and 25. Now, I want you to answer the following 3 questions at the bottom or below. The first one, what are the scores of the students which are less than or equal to 25% of the data? Number 2, what are the scores of the students which are less than or equal to 65% of the data? And the last question, or the third question, is what are the scores of the students which are less than or equal to 8% of the data? I will get back to you after 2 minutes. Good luck! Are you done with the first activity? And I hope that you're enjoying it as much as I do. And as well as we have here the second activity, by the way, the purpose of this activity is to further dig up all your knowledge that you have learned for illustrating the measures of position of ungrouped data. That's the previous topic, right? So right now, I want you to get your calculator. I have mentioned earlier on said that you must prepare a calculator if you have a pen and a paper, because you will be gathering or arranging this data. So I have here the activity number 2 entitled Calculator Drill. So you use your calculator or scientific calculator and prepare the following questions, or do exactly as being told as fast as you can. I will get back to you after 2 minutes. So only for those with calculator. For those who have none, don't you worry, it's just an exercise, okay? Good luck.
I walk in shadows, no one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. Can somebody save me, save me? I never know which way I'm supposed to go. All I do is stare out my window. I feel just like a ghost that you walk right through. I feel like a shadow. I just wanna know, am I insane? Insane. I just wanna know, am I insane? Insane. I never know which way I'm supposed to go. All I do is stare out the window. I just wanna know, whoa, am I insane? I sit in silence. Nobody can hear me, not even when I'm crying. I need someone to save me, save me. I never know which road I'm supposed to take. Every choice I make gives me headache. I feel just like a ghost that you walk right through. I feel like a shadow. I just wanna know, am I insane? Insane. I just wanna know, am I insane? Insane. I never know which way I'm supposed to go. All I do is stare at the window.
Alright, who among those who enjoy the second activity using a scientific calculator? I hope you find it easy. And by the way, by performing those two activities, did you find it easy? Or did you already got the idea what we are trying to further develop by simply doing those activities that we have done for the activity number 1 and number 2? If you can recall, those set of data, numbers and figures that were actually laid out on the activity were actually, they were not arranged. There are questions that starts from lowest, then followed by the highest, or they were not grouped. Alright, because we are actually illustrating the measures of position for ungrouped data on the review activity. Now, data on the review activity. Now, one of the basic skills that we actually must master in order to fully understand, as I mentioned earlier, is the concept of the median. I know that you already know what median is all about. We have discussed that thoroughly during our second quarter, and that was on the week 7, MELC 7 of the second quarter's Mathematics 10 quarter 2 module, wherein I asked you to find the midpoint between two points, wherein we laid out the line segment, if you can still remember. And getting the midpoint of those is by averaging the distance, yes, from point A to point B divided by 2, same as you are averaging your scores. It's just that our divisor is only 2. That's why we have the median from the word middle. So right now, let's enhance your skills. Alright, for what's new, we will further develop that concept of the median by simply looking at this activity number 3. Let's try to analyze this one. I have here a line segment AC. Alright, in the line segment AC, I have here the midpoint B. Alright, how would you know the coordinates of our midpoint B? You will be able to know the coordinates of the midpoint B as soon as you add up those coordinates of point A and point C. Then divided by 2, you will get the exact midpoint or location of your point B. Right? So with this question number 1, find the coordinates of the midpoint Q1 of the line segment AB in terms of X and Y. So as you can see here in the line segment, we have line segment AB divided by the midpoint represented by or denoted by the Q1. So you want to know what are the coordinates, or yes, what are the coordinates of Q1, which you will only be able to answer that one if this point A denoted by X, point B denoted by Y, adding those two that will give you x plus y, getting the average, divided by 2. Then you will have the coordinates of your Q1, which is your median, right? Do you get now? Now let's proceed with the discussion proper. I want you to get your module. Alright, your module 4, or the one that I have sent to you, our week 2 topic, week 2 module for Mathematics 10, quarter 4, which is MELC 1B, because this is half of the part of 1A. I hope that you already have your module or your copy. If you have saved the image that I've given you, if you have the module, then you can get one for our week 2 MELC 1B. Going back to the median a while ago, the median divides the distribution into 2 equal parts. That was the concept of the median, which will be part of our topic for the measures of position. It is a point in the distribution wherein one half of the distribution lies below it and one half above it. One half of the distribution lies below B and one half lies above it. Hence, our B represents the median. This part of the module enables you to understand quantities in a set of group data. The activities in this section will help you answer the question, what are the ways to determine the measure of position in a given set of data? So I was asking you a while ago if you were able to find out or realize according to the figures that we have presented on the activity 2 calculator drill, and even from activity 1 wherein you were able to see the set of row scores. And what can you say about the scores? How are they arranged or being arranged? You will be able to define your answer for that one as we go along in the middle of our discussion. What is it then? So in order for you to understand and to further strengthen the points of your personal reflections and further develop your knowledge about illustrating the measures of position of group data this time, I have here illustrative examples provided to you. Alright, now that you have already learned the difference between group data and ungrouped data, and I'm sure that you already understood why we are using the group data, because it's much easier, and you have heard and learned the importance of grouping the data, and as well as on how to group the data. I have given you the steps. One is to arrange the data or the values in either ascending or descending order. Now I have here basic terminologies and these concepts will help you understand better these measures of position of group data. And what are those? So if you have seen on the table that I have flashed earlier, frequency distribution table, you have seen there the word class intervals, frequency, and as well as cumulative frequency. And what does those words mean? Alright, let's start with the class intervals. When we say class intervals, ang gap na siya between two values, the higher values and the lower values, right? But in the right term, we called class intervals as the numerical width of any class in a distinct distribution. It is the difference between the upper class and the higher class value. And what is that? What do you call the upper class value? Well, the upper class value or upper class limit is the highest value sa class interval. Like for example, on the frequency distribution table that we have here on the slide, class interval scores between 38 to 40. Our upper class here, where is the upper or the highest value? Of course, we only got two values there. The upper one is 40 and you got the lower value, which is 38. And what do you call that in the proper terminologies? The lower value is what we call the lower class limit. Alright, so we got class intervals. You already know what is upper class limit and lower class limit. Now let's define what do you mean by frequency. Now if you see the word frequency, that means it is the number of times that a certain values occur or particular value appear in that set of data or between the interval. Just like, for example, we got a row score here. One student scored 39. 39 falls in between 38 to 40. And because only one student scored 39, which is the only score that falls between 38 to 40, or the only student that falls with a score that falls between the interval of 38 to 40. So, ang aton nga frequency is isa lang because isa lang siya. But if we say that there are two students, one scored 39 and the other one scored 38. So, basically, ang aton frequency, mahimo na siya nga, duwa sila naka-score within the class interval scores of 38 to 40. So that's what we mean by frequency. What about cumulative frequency denoted by CF? How do you calculate that one? If you can see on the table, where did you get 20, 19, 18, 16, 10, and 5, and so on? Well, the frequency or cumulative frequency is calculated by adding each frequency from the frequency table to the sum of the preceding values. So when you add the frequency of the class interval 38 to 40, which is 1, when you add it to the rest of the frequency preceding values below that, if you can see, our n is 20. N is represented by the total number of observation that we have in a given data set in our example here. So if you took 1, how much will be left? There will only be 19 left. So that's our preceding frequency, 19, plus the frequency of scores between 38 to 40, which is 1. So 19 plus 1, you will get 20. Same with the class intervals between 35 to 37. Since we only got one frequency there, and since we already took 2 out of 20, so what will be left is 18. There are 18 frequency below that frequency 1. So 18 plus that value of that number 1 frequency will give us 19. Same as with the class interval between 32 to 34. Our frequency on this table is 2. And how much would be the remaining? We got 16, right? Because there are only 20. So there are already 4 taken off, including the interval between 32 to 34. So 2 plus 1 on top, that's 4. We got n is equal to 20. To 20 minus 4, we got 16 left, plus the value of the frequency between 30 to 34, which is 18, and so on. What about lower boundary? Lower boundary is defined as the midpoint of the upper limit and the lower limit of every succeeding class interval. So far, these are the following terms that you might encounter as we go along in plotting the frequency distribution table. Now, let's have a clear example so you can follow and illustrate, or how to illustrate the measure cell position then. So let's flash another example here. I have here, let's say the scores of 20 grade 10 Deciles learners in a 40-item test in mathematics are given in a frequency distribution table below. Illustrate the following measures of position: Q1, D5, and P80. Now Q stands for quartile. Now if you hear the word quartile, that means 4. Then D5, wherein D represents decile. Now decile comes from the word deca, which means 10. So basically in a decile there are 10 equal parts. And we got P80, wherein P represents percentile. So when you hear the percentile, it refers to 100, like in percentage. So basically there will be 100 equal parts or 99 partition value. So we got here the frequency table Same as the table that we use. Now we are to find or illustrate the following measures of position for Q1. So let's start with Q1. How do we illustrate this one? To illustrate Q1, the formula to find the QK class is equal to this formula. QK is equal to KN over 4. Wherein your Q, as I have mentioned, that represents, and our Q represents for quartile, and your N represents the total frequency, your big letter N, total frequency, while your K is the 9th quartile, wherein your N, small letter N, is equal to 1, 2, and 3. And you might be wondering why 1, 2, and 3, where does it come from? Well, we are talking about quartile on the first question. And we are about to find or illustrate the measures of position of quartile 1 or Q1. Since quartile, as I mentioned, it means 4. There are 4 equal parts. So may tatlo lang siya ka-partition. Just like this one. For example, this one, if I'm going to divide it into 4, so I'm going to put 3 lines here, right? 1, 2, and 3. That will give me 4 equal parts. That's why our small letter N is 1, 2, and 3. Tatlo lang ka-partition. Then that will leave you 4 equal parts because it's quartile. Quartile means 4. Cuatro. Alright, so the solution here, applying the formula, you will get, if you are going to look at the illustration, frequency distribution table, that's where we will base our answers. The class interval scores 38 to 40, frequency 1, and less than cumulative frequency is 20. Same with the intervals 35 to 37, frequency is 1. And less than cumulative frequency is 19. So we have discussed that one on our first talk. We use the same frequency distribution table, right? Our formula for this one, in our given, our K is equal to 1. You have Q1, so our K is 1. Our big letter N, which is the total number of observation in a given set, is 20. Substituting those values in our formula of QK, just refer to the slide, QK is equal to KN over 4. So if your K is 1, your N is 20, all you have to do is substitute those figures into the formula. So you will have Q1 is equal to, your K will be replaced with 1, so you will have 1 times your N will be replaced by 20, so you will have there 1 times 20 divided by 4 from the formula, because it has 4 equal parts. So your Q1 will be equal to 1 times 20 will give you 20 divided by 4 will give you 5. So fifth value of the observation. What does it mean? This means that we need to find the class interval where the fifth score is contained. Note that the 3rd to 6th scores belongs to the class interval 32. That's 23 to 25. 23 to 25, that's where we got our fifth score. So therefore, the fifth score is also within that class interval. So our Q1 class interval is 23 to 25. So that's the solution for illustrating Q1 based on our given example. Did you get it? Now let's proceed to number 2 question, which is finding or illustrating the measures of D5. Alright, so how are we going to do this? So D5 or D represents deciles. That means 10, right? So we would have class intervals. We will be using different figures. Try to look at that one. Class intervals 38 to 40. 35 to 37, 32 to 34, 29 to 31, 26 to 28, 23 to 25, 20 to 22. Still our n is 20, and we have the given our k is equal to 5, your n is equal to 20. Your solution with the formula is equal to dk is equal to kn over 10. Nga nag-over 10 kita because it's decile, it has 10 equal parts. So ang ating divisor is not anymore 4 but 10. Looking at the slide, our d5, substituting the value, our k is 5. So we'll replace k with 5. So that will be d5 is equal to, your k will be replaced by 5, your n will be replaced by 20 divided by 10. So that will be d5 is equal to 5 times 20 over 10. And your d5 is equal to 5 times 2. D5 will fall on the 10th value of the observation in the CF column. So this means that we need to find the class interval where the 10th score is contained. Did you get it now? Note that the 7th to 11th score belongs to the class interval 26 to 28 based on the frequency distribution table that we have shown here. Therefore, the 10 scores belongs to the class interval 26 to 28. So now our D5 class interval is 26 to 28. Alright, clear. Now let's proceed to illustrating P80. How are we going to illustrate P80 or percentile 80? Let's change the slide. We have, in order the formula to find or illustrate percentiles, we will replace the variable d with p. So we will be solving for percentile now. So pk is equal to kn over 100. Nga again nag 100 ang ato nga divisor is because we will be talking about percentile, that means 100. So there are 100 equal parts. So that's why ang atong divisor natin subong is 100. So your D is decile, your K is the total frequency, and your K is the nth decile. Alright? We have different frequency here. Alright, so now that we are able to solve for the Q1 and the D5, and we are now on solving or illustrating the measures of position for the P80. Alright, so we're in our values now is being divided into 100 equal parts, and our ninth quartile or the ninth quartile, ninth percentile is being divided into 99 partition values. So our ninth or nth, it can be any numbers between 1 up to 99, 1 to 99. So we will be looking for the partition value around 80 at. Our formula would still be the same. pk is equal to kn over 100. So as I have mentioned, ang atong divisor name 100 because we are talking about the percentile, that means 100 equal parts. So pk, we'll just substitute the values. P80, our K will be our 80. So that will be P80 is equal to 80 times, and your N is still the total number of observation, which is 20. So that will be 80 times 20 over 100 over 100. So we would have P80 is equal to 80 times 20 over 100. That will give you 80 divided by 5 would give you 16th value of the distribution. What does it mean? So that means we need to find the class interval wherein the 16th value is contained. And note that the 16th scores belongs to the class interval between 29 to 31. Therefore, the 16th value or 16th score is also the same, or is also within the class interval of 29 to 31. So the P80 class is class interval between 29 to 31. Alright, so wrap up again when finding the measures of position of quartile. Just remember, if you are looking for whatever is the nth value, all you have to do is just remember the formula qk is equal to kn over 4. For decile, it's dk is equal to kn over 10. For percentile, that's pk is equal to kn over 100. Now, I do have here an activity. I want to test how much you have learned, if you have learned a lot, or if you have any questions, or should I ask, is everything clear? You can park your comment and your questions. You can ask me if there are some part which appears to be confusing, so feel free to ask me before we go on with the next activity. So I will give you 5 minutes for this activity and I will get back to you after 5 minutes. Good luck.
I took a pill in Ibiza to show Avicii I was cool. And when I finally got sober, felt 10 years older, but fuck it, it was something to do. I'm living out in LA. I drive a sports car just to prove I'm a real big baller, cause I made $1 million and I spend it on girls and shoes. But you don't wanna be high like me, never really knowing why like me. You don't ever wanna step off that roller coaster and be all alone. And you don't wanna ride the bus like this, never know who to trust like this. You don't wanna be stuck up on that stage singing, stuck up on that stage singing. Oh, I know a sad soul, sad souls, darling. All I know are sad souls, sad souls. Sad soul. I know a sad soul. I know a sad soul. I'm just a singer who already blew his shot. I get along with old timers cause my name's a reminder of a pop song people forgot. And I can't keep a girl, no, cause as soon as the sun comes up I cut them all loose and work's my excuse. But the truth is I can't open up. And you don't wanna be high like me, never really knowing why like me. You don't ever wanna step off that roller coaster and be all alone. And you don't wanna ride the bus like this, never know who to trust like this. You don't wanna be stuck up on that stage singing, stuck up on that stage singing. Oh, I know sad souls, sad souls, darling. All I know are sad souls, sad souls. Sad soul. I know a sad soul. Sad soul. I know a sad soul. Sad soul. I know a sad soul.
How did you find the activity? Did you find it easy? And I hope that you also enjoy answering your activity. And if you want to learn more, I have prepared the quizzes for you. One of the best, and I love this platform, quizzes.com. I have prepared 15 item tests, so just to make sure if you have understood, so you can assess yourself on your own. So you can answer it at your own pace in the comfort of your home. Please answer the quizzes that I have created for you at quizzes.com. Just click the link below, and if you still have some question, just feel free to ask me. You can message me anytime. Alright, and just to evaluate your learning, to summarize what we have discussed, I want you to answer the following summary, what you have learned by illustrating the measures of position of quartiles, deciles, and percentiles by following these prompts below. And what enrichment or what other enrichment activities wherein you can engage yourself into with the use of the applications of the measures of position. You will be asked to create an output as soon as we finish discussing the Unit 4 of Mathematics 10, Quarter 4. You will be writing your own reflection or journal. That will be your performance test then. We will get to that one as soon as we finish discussing everything for this module. And also, please don't forget to write your reflections, okay? So once again, I hope that you have enjoyed our discussion today. This is your teacher, Melissa Ong Santañez, or normally I usually ask my friend just to call me Liz. That is the sweetest nickname wherein I am being called by my closest friends. So just call me Teacher Liz for short. And stay safe, enjoy learning, and I hope that you continue enjoying your studies. And I'm just here, okay? Thank you and have a great day. So this is Liz saying that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Thank you and God bless. Goodbye.